All right, we're going to start with you on this question. What are the 3 core values of the Bakersfield Tea Party?
The 3 core values of
the Bakersfield Tea Party.
Well, I will admit that I have not looked at any of the documents related to the Bakersfield Tea Party, but I would suspect that the Bakersfield Tea Party believes, as I believe, individual liberty, the maximum freedom under our Constitution, and limited government.
Ms. Escudero, do you know the 3 core values of the Bakersfield Tea Party?
I'm not copying him. But liberty, freedom, and limited government would be my guess as well, because I did not read what the Bakersfield Tea Party was based on. But those would be the 3 that I would name.
Mr. Gleason?
Limited government, fiscal responsibility, and return to American traditional values.
Ms. Hess?
I say limited government, individual property rights, and a return to the Constitution.
Mr. Freeland?
Yes, limited government, following our Constitution to the T, and fiscal responsibility and integrity.
And Mr. Holloway?
Limited government, fiscal responsibility, and individual rights.
Fiscal responsibility, constitutionally limited government, and free markets. Thank you all. Okay. Oh, back to Ms. Escudero. How do you think you would respond to a constituent request that on the surface it seems harmless, but in fact ultimately pits foreign law, specifically Sharia law, against our Constitution?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the question.
How do you think that you would respond to a constituent should they request that, if they made a request to you that on the surface it seemed harmless, but in fact ultimately pits the foreign law, specifically Sharia law, against our Constitution?
Well, first of all, every constituent that calls, their consideration would be completely taken in just at its face value, because we are there to listen to the people that we represent. So the first thing I would do is make sure I fully understand what it is that they're asking, or the assistance on the issue that they're asking about. And then I would have to just basically take a look at it and say, well, is this something I can solve in my office? And if I can solve it in my office and it doesn't go against law, or it doesn't go against, you know, the contrary nature of the individual rights versus some of the things that have been legislated, then I would do everything I could to help that constituent. But without knowing a core example of what exactly...
Well, let me ask you, I'm sorry, there was probably a second part to that question here. What are you currently doing to inform yourself and understand the intentions of Sharia law and radical Islam?
Well, the most important thing is that our courts belong to us. And I think that what we need to make sure of is that we continue to allow our courts to operate the way our courts have operated for the history of this country. The Sharia law is really, in my opinion, just a veil for an intention. And I think that we have an important obligation in this country to make sure that we honor all religions, but not at the expense of our own personal decorum in the courts and the tradition that our courts have had throughout the history of this country. You know, an issue, and I just want to point it out, you know, a lot of times people have issue with the flag that comes with a fringe, and that's a real issue. And I know a lot of people think that that's just a crazy thing, but a flag with a fringe is something that should not be in a court, because we are supposed to be under the laws of our land, not under a military law. And I really, truly, I'm glad to see you have a regular flag here tonight. So even those tiny little nuances, we have to pay attention, because when we start making changes, they're lasting changes because they set precedent. And we need to make sure that the precedents that have already been set stay in place in this country, because we rely on that fourth branch of government. Our courts have to stay intact and be the way that they have been for the last 250 years in this country.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gleason.
Yeah. Twice in my life, I've been to lands that practice Sharia law. I witnessed firsthand in a place that we called, I don't think it's too rude to say, we call the Chop Chop Square, where Sharia law was practiced. and I witnessed an event where I saw Sharia law fully implemented. It was a horrible experience. It is a godless law, and it is completely unacceptable in America. I was at another place in Oman where my plane broke, and I had to spend, I'll do this in 2 minutes, I had to spend 2 weeks living there, and these people were good enough to bring me to their homes off the military base into their homes. They lived in hovels. It was beyond third world. When I went into their home, the gentleman brought me in, and the wife could only hand me food through a hole in the wall and bring the food out through a plate because she couldn't be seen and all these rituals. I respect their ability, their right to do what they want to do and to honor their decisions they make, but not over here.
Thank you. Ms. Hess.
Right on.
Very good.
This is America, this is the United States. You come to our country, you live by our laws. If you want to live by your laws, you need to stay where you need to stay in your own country. My father actually went to Egypt, gosh, I think it was back in the 80s, and he had the same experience. He was served dinner. The wife was allowed to come out and hand the plate, and then she had to disappear. I have my administrative assistant actually came across a young girl whose father was practicing Sharia law. It is very scary, and there is no place for it in the United States. There's just, bottom line, there is no place for it here.
Mr. Freeland.
Well, you know, Sharia law is in direct conflict with our Constitution. And as a county supervisor, and I did as a ranger, you know, I took an oath to follow the Constitution. And I believe in our Constitution. I don't believe in Sharia law. I think it would move our country so far back. In fact, it would be back before it was even founded in terms of how we treat people, how our justice system is done. You know, our country is really founded on some principles that, and I'm a Christian man, and I know it's not popular to say in today's culture with a lot of people, but you know what? It would be in total violation of Christian principles and stuff that I believe where our rights came from God. And so I personally could not support Sharia law in this country. Sharia law in the Middle East or wherever, that's up to them. They have their sovereignty.
Thank you. Mr. Holloway?
To quote one of my favorite radio hosts, I would say ditto, Mr. Gleason. I have tried to I'm intrigued by the whole concept of Sharia law. I think we have a city in this country, I think it's Dearborn, Michigan, where they're probably the furthest down the path in Sharia law. If you look at some of the European countries, the majority of the problems with some of their elected leaders getting voted out of office is their ability to give in so easily to Sharia law. It's very scary. I encourage everybody to go to a website called Numbers USA, which talks about legal immigration. And just from the birth rates of the different ethnic groups in this country, I think they're predicting by 24, the Muslim culture in this country will outnumber every other race, and they can take over our entire government if we don't do something soon. And I think one thing that our side doesn't know how to do very well, and I assume I'm on your side, and the other side is the other side, is they accept incrementalism very well. And we always go for the home run and we strike out. We've got to start playing the game the same way they play it, and we've got to start accepting incrementalism. I too, as a 14-year elected official, have held my hand held up and said I would support the Constitution. But I can't tell you how many times I've had to defend decisions at the local level that were handed down by the state or the federal government because of activist judges creating case law that requires me as an elected official to do something I absolutely don't believe as a Christian human being. So we have got, 135 million people voted last night for American Idol. I bet you that many people won't vote for the next president of the United States, and that's the symptom of this problem.
Mr. Ashburn?
Well, I've had the privilege of raising my hand on the Bible many times to take the oath of office for the various positions to which I've been elected by the people. And at the end of that oath, I always add the words that are not there. So help me God. This is a blessed country. This is a nation inspired by God. I believe that our Constitution governs as an inspired document for the governance of our nation. And so with respect to any issue that might come before me, those are the principles that I will follow.
I just wanted to say one more thing. I thought you were specifically asking about how Sharia law is currently impacting our court system. So that is how I prefaced my answer. Hopefully I made it clear that I am not in favor of Sharia law and very mindful of the small increment, the tiny steps that are being taken to slip it in under the radar.
You know, we have 2-minute rebuttal.
Yes, we do.
That means I can say something for 2 minutes?
Yes.
One thing that wasn't completely addressed, and I think it goes a little deeper into this discussion, which I think is a very important discussion because it brings to light a very important issue. We are a Christian nation. I hear people say that we are not, we're more of a conglomerate of different ideas and religions and theologies brought together, blended together so that you have the right to do whatever you want to do. And that statement is partly correct. But the reason it is that way is because we are a Christian nation, first and foremost, and our Christianity demands that we respect the rights and privileges of other people and allow them to honor and pray and worship in the way that they deem necessary.
Thank you. Where are we?